Next up, we have some whirlpools in the water. Move across them at just the right moment so that you can avoid running directly into them, because they will suck you in and you'll instantly lose a life. After a small area, you'll then get to a boardwalk type place, where you'll have to fight off some Space Invader enemies at first. You'll have to deal with a few sets of enemies, including some of the long-legged things that we can break apart in order to grab a hold of their leg and use it as a weapon. Once you take out those two, you can get a couple of gnats, so be careful not to go too far over to the right, and then you have a boss battle. This guy can be rather easy to deal with at first, as he just jumps really towards you. Back away if you need to from one of his bigger jumps in order to deliver a hit with the weapon. Whenever he does one of the huge jumps off screen, be sure to be out of the way because he's going to try to land exactly where you are, so keep moving during that part. Once he lands, that'll give you the opportunity to deliver your hit to him. Once you deliver enough hits, you'll take him out and it's time to go surfing again. This surfing part starts off with some mines in the water, which will instantly kill you, so dodge in and out of them. The mines are going to come at you at random, so you're never quite sure exactly each time you play when they're going to be coming at you, so you're never really safe. Thankfully though, the ramps that you need to hit are always going to be in the middle, so dodge in and out when you need to, but just be sure to get ready to get back in the middle when you see that ramp coming. After your fourth set of mines, you'll hit the goal and you've completed Surf City. Next up is Tarnoff Slayer. Now this is a weird level. This giant snake pit has these very large snakes that you actually have to ride to get through the stage. You have 4 different areas of these snakes, and it gets harder and harder with each time. You can climb up the snakes, and you're going to need to climb up them as they keep moving, and they get to their different holes. When one gets to a hole though, be sure to get ready because you're going to have to jump up and land on the next snake. It starts off rather easy so you can get used to this, and the way the snakes move and the way you're able to jump on them. At the end of each area will be a hole with the word out under it. Once you jump in there, you'll be teleported to the next section of snakes. The second area gets a lot tougher as you now have spikes to deal with. Sometimes they're going to try to trick you, trying to make you think that it's time to jump over some areas where it's actually best just to hang onto the snake's body a little bit longer before attempting to make your jump. Thankfully though, the snakes are always going to go in the exact same patterns every time, so when you memorize their patterns and when you're going to have to jump, it gets a little bit easier. Overall, this ends up being one of my favorite stages in the game, and one that I actually liked and enjoyed playing when I was a kid. If you miss the outhole in that section of the snake rooms, you're going to either fall down to your death by hitting something or landing in a pit, or if you can, get back to the beginning of the room where you first came in, because the first snake's going to respawn. This spot can be tricky. Stay on the right side, do not try to go down because you'll end up running right into that spike. So wait for him to come up to the opposite side before you jump over it. This snake, once again, you're going to be waiting for the snake to come back up and around the spikes before jumping on it so you can get up. When you make it out of this room, we have only one more room to go. Start off by jumping up the platforms, then jumping over to the opposite platform so you can reach the purple snake before it reaches into the hole. With this one, wait on top and then jump at the absolute last moment so you can get over and get into the hole to complete the stage. Next up is level 7, Volkmeyer's Inferno, which is easily my least favorite level in the entire game. This is the one I always have the most trouble with. While later parts of levels are going to be tougher than this, overall this is probably the toughest stage to memorize and be able to get through. It starts off very much like the Turbo Tunnel, as we have some platforms to jump back and forth along while taking out some of the normal rat enemies. But these rat enemies are easier to take out as they're only going to take one hit before you're instantly killing them. As you can see, even a normal punch to one of them takes them out. When you get here, wait a while for the log to finally come over so that you can jump on it and get over to the next platform. Here we have a few rat enemies riding on rockets that are going to take one hit to destroy. When they get close, be sure to get ready to hit them so that you can take those out without taking damage. Here we have a couple more Space Invader enemies, so take them out so you can try to conserve as much health as you possibly can. After another handful of rats on rockets, we grab some health before we get into the main part of this level, which is going to be riding on a plane. As you can see, the whole level turns into a burning inferno in the background as we enter the plane area. Now the plane has full movement, being able to move all over the screen, and you're going to need this in order to get through gaps of lightning, as well as lightning that's closing up quickly. This takes complete memorization and precise timing, just like the Turbo Tunnel, in order to get through, except this part I think is a little bit tougher to get through. In this area, you're going to have to be sure to be very close to the screen and know where the closings are going to be open enough so that you can sneak through before they close up. Next up, we have a long series of fireballs that are going to be coming at you, which will instantly kill you. I usually like to hang out near the top of the screen, as it seems to be the least amount of fireballs spawn here. However, when you see one coming that's anywhere touching the purple area of the screen, be sure to get down on the screen so that you don't get hit by it. This is no way a fail-proof place to stand, but it ends up being, at least for me, a way to get through the section. In the next area, we have rockets that are going to be coming up as well as coming from the sky, so hanging out in about the middle of the screen is a good area to be to try to avoid the rockets as they're coming up and down from below and above. After the rockets are done, you hit the last checkpoint, and this is where things get extremely tough. You have to move in and out of the lightning, first starting with gaps, then you have to be far back on the screen so that the gaps open up just enough so you can sneak by. After 3 of them, you have to be close so that you're close enough to the screen so that when they're closing up on you, you're actually able to get past them. After you get past a long string of them, you then have a section where the walls are going to start appearing very briefly and then fly at you extremely fast, so you have to be sure that you're at the right spot. They get faster and faster as the screen keeps going, and it can be very tricky, and it comes down to pure memorization and fast fingers if you're going to be able to survive not getting killed here. Once you hit the last bar, you completed this stage. Next up is level 8, the Intruder Excluder. Now in this level, we're working our way up a long elevator shaft to get to the top. It starts off with some open and gap areas where you just have to jump up to the next floor very easily. If you see these ones with the yellow bars in between the 2 gaps, that means lightning can get conducted in between, so you have to be very careful not to jump up when the lightning's there. Use these springs so that you can spring yourself up to the top. But be sure not to fall back down off the springs, because once the screen scrolls past, you'll lose a life if you fall. With those saucer type enemies, it just comes down to timing in between their shots, so that you can deliver a hit with your weapon. As you can see, it's just timing the weight down for the right moment that's in between their shots so you can jump up to their platform and you're able to hit them. Be very careful also of wall traps, such as those that shoot out these large gas clouds that if they hit you is an instant death. Just wait for them to fire out before you jump up to the platform where one's located. With these things, you don't want to get sucked into them, but you can jump up to them while they're sucking in. Just be sure to run quickly to the opposite direction. Once you reach the top, it's time for a boss battle. Now this guy can get very annoying. Every time he lands, he's gonna immediately fire. So I like to do a ramming shot at him, and then immediately duck down when he lands so that I don't get hit by his fire. You also want to be sure that you don't get crushed by him when he lands as well. His shots and movement will get more sporadic and faster as the battle continues, so it will get tougher as it goes on. If you end up getting shot by him, more than likely you're just going to end up losing your life, especially as the battle continues, because his gunfire is just so fast that you won't even be able to recover in time in order to actually get up and avoid his next set of shots. Next up is another one of my least favorite levels, the Tera Tubes. These robot enemies are going to be all throughout this area. You have to get close to them and start attacking them before they run into you. If they run into you, they explode and it's an instant death. Throughout this level as well, you're going to have these little helicopter things that you grab onto and slowly float down the screen, usually watching out for spikes in the middle as well as lining the walls. When you're in the areas with water running through there, you're actually going to run a lot slower. Now, with normal enemies, this really isn't too much of a problem, but later on we're going to be getting chased, so it ends up becoming an issue then. Here begins the chase part. This large gear-like object will start chasing you through different mounts of tunnels. At the very end of it, you have to make sure you're out of the way so that it can end up running into its final spot where it will disappear. Like for example here, you have to jump straight up so that it runs into the wall, so that the wall for the next area opens up. When in the water, either run straight forward or jump a lot so that you can move quickly throughout the water areas. There you have to be sure that you're out of the pit just in time before the gear came down and ended up crushing you. Of course, if the gear does make contact with you in any way, it's an instant death. Once we get past that last gear, it's time for a different area of the game where we're actually swimming underneath the water. Do your best to avoid the enemies as well as try to get your way carefully around the spikes by jumping out of the water or swimming underneath of them. The fish enemies throughout the game, it's really just kind of best to wait and kind of bait them into what direction they're going to go and then quickly start going the opposite